Hi, everybody. Matt Bernier, joined by DRF's national handicapper Mike Watchmaker, taking a look at this weekend's Weekend Warrior. Saturday, March the 24th, a big day of racing down at the Fairgrounds. And Mike will also take a look at a nice race out at Santa Anita. Let's start off with the Mervyn Muniz handicap. Mike, race number 9 at the Fairgrounds, about a mile on the turf. Number of horses exiting the fair. Handicap, one of those horses, or do you want a fresh fair?
I'm up and comer here. I'm taking. Ellen, I showed in his final last year, narrowly beaten the Hill Prince, that he belongs races. This was a pretty solid race. He was beaten only in that by Yoshida, highly regarded. He finished in front of the very highly rated Bricks and Mortar, who did have a bad trip, but still, he finished in front. And fourth of the Hill Prince was sworn on multiple graded stakes, where he came back and won his 4-year-old debut very nicely. And it's been winning 4-year-old debut very nicely. Luther did just last month at Gulfstream Park. I mean, this was a race that didn't set up well for him at all. He was taken back off the pace. The pace turned out to be very slow. Lucullen was shuffled back on the far turn, then went 4 wide on the far turn and still blew that field away. I mean, I think this horse has got good things in front of him. I think he's a definite up-and-comer, and I think his ceiling is still yet to be defined, where I know exactly how good many of these other horses are.
Move on to race number 11. It's the main event, the featured event of the entire Fairgrounds meeting. It's the Grade 2 Louisiana Derby. $1 million of the purse, 100 qualifying points for the Kentucky Derby to the winner. A number of horses exiting the Risen Star. Is that the race that you're looking toward, or do you want to look for somebody else?
I'm looking towards the Risen Star mainly by default here. I mean, my main position in this race is I'm completely against my boy Jack. Now, maybe that will force him up into the winner's circle. I don't know. But I know I don't want my boy Jack here for 2 reasons. Number one, when he won the Southwest last time out at Oaklawn, and he won that race by many lengths going away, he got an unobstructed run on the rail every step of the way. And I watched that card in real time that day, and the rail was very live, and it only got stronger as the day went on to the point where the time they ran the Southwest, I think it was an absolute gold rail. That's number one. I just, by nature, I don't take horses coming off track biased enhanced victories. But also, that race was run on a muddy sealed racetrack. And the forecast all week for New Orleans is bone dry. He's going to catch a fast track. It's a completely different surface than he got in that big win at Oaklawn. So I think he's going to be overbet because of that reason. And his fast track races just are mediocre. So I went with the horses coming out of the Risen Star, and I went with Snapper Sinclair, who was beaten the nose of the Risen Star by Bravazzo. Interestingly, both horses have rider switches in this one. Bravazzo was ridden by Miguel Mena, but he got hurt, so now he gets Gary Stevens. Snapper Sinclair was ridden by Adam Pachiza, who did nothing wrong with him in the Risen Star, but now he's got Jose Ortiz, who only won last year's Eclipse Award for champion jockey. So I think Snapper Sinclair came out on the best end of all that jockey switches, and I think that's enough to compensate for the nose difference between them on the wire and the Risen Star.
2 graded stakes out at Santa Anita on Saturday afternoon. You're going to take a look at race number 5, 7/8 of a mile on the main track, the Grade 2 Santa Monica. It's a select field. You've got a lot of quality in here. Only 5 are going to go. You're going to go with possibly the freshest face of them all.
I'm going with Selcourt in here, but first let me say I really don't like using 5-horse fields in the Warrior, but I was sort of, there was nothing else I could do this week because pickings elsewhere were slim. And while the San Luis Rey, which is run later in the Santa Anita card, has a much larger field, I just think it's a 2-horse race. I mean, I just think it's between It's in the Boast and Hayabusa 1, and I prefer Hayabusa 1 in that race. But I think even though this is only a 5-horse field, there are different ways for bettors to go in here. And I think Selcourt might actually be a square ticket. And Selcourt ran very well last time, winning the Las Flores. She dueled early on the lead. It was a bitter speed duel. The race set up perfectly for Sky Diamonds, who's a very talented filly. And Selcourt still went on and won that race, and Sky Diamonds couldn't capitalize on the speed duel. This time around, there's no one in this race that can go early with Selcourt. She's got, I think, as easy an early lead as she could possibly get in here, and I think she's going to take this field wire to wire. Of course, the big key in this race is Paradise Woods. I mean, she's ultra classy, and she can absolutely win this race. But, you know, the more I see of Paradise Woods, the more I'm starting to think that maybe she's the kind of horse that runs out of her mind when she's in complete control of the early pace. And when she's not in control of the early pace, and she won't be on Saturday, she's a little bit more mortal.
We'll find out how things shake down. It is a very, very interesting race. Only 5 horses. You can find the entire write-up for the Weekend Warrior over on DRF.com, and you can find the video here on video.drf.com every Thursday. Mike, great stuff as always. Best of luck this weekend. We'll talk again next week.
Thank you, Matt.